Welcome to the Agency Bud podcast. On the show, we talk to agency owners and business owners, CEOs, startup founders about their biggest challenges, what makes them tick, and how they got their agencies or businesses to scale and grow. Overcoming challenges, it's what we do. Let's find out about these business owners. You can follow along with every episode at podcast.agencybud.com. We'd love to have you on board. Agency Bud is the platform for delivering increased revenue to businesses and agencies. Find out more at agencybud.com. Let's go and meet our special guest for today. Ladies and gentlemen, Welcome to the show. Today I have an incredibly special guest, the CEO, founder, and director of one of the best marketing agencies out of India. This man and his agency has worked with clients like Amazon, like Forbes of India. He's represented authors. He's spoken on stages across the world. He's grown an incredible team out to 31 people, and he is a child at heart, as he describes himself, but a marketeer by profession. It is none other than the amazing Hemal Majithia. Hemal, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Walter. Thanks for inviting.
It's lovely to see you on the show, man. Now, you've had some incredible success with your agency, which is Oktobuzz. You've had some amazing clients that you've represented over the years, starting back in 2013, as I did my research there. How did you get started into the whole space of marketing?
Okay, I've been, I've completed my MBA in marketing. There was a knack for marketing from first. I had decided that I wanted to get into marketing all the time. And, it was interesting that I got a job at a company, in my MBA. Let me tell you the story. In my MBA, I got a job, 0-day placement in a company which was into ERP systems, etc. And I had to handle their marketing module for ERP and travel around the world and work on that. It was a very interesting opportunity. I took that job up, but surprisingly I got the offer letter also, got the appointment letter, but because of the recession going on, I didn't get called for because they had laid off 800 people from the company at that point.
Wow.
And it got me thinking, what I really want to do, whom I want to work with. Should it be a big company, a small company? And that's the time, I got to understand something. One of my mentors basically told me something that, Hemal, why don't you look at a person whom you can work under rather than a company? And, that was a very good moment in my life where I basically understood that. And I started working with this company called Freedom Financial Planners at that point of time, which was a front runner and a pioneer in fee-based financial planning for people. There was a team of 3 people. I was the 4th person who joined. The CEO of that company was the deputy CEO of ING Vesya company before that. And I wanted to work under him. I wanted to learn from him. It wasn't learning from the company, but from the people that was important. I think I've learned some of my key lessons in marketing from him. He is a brilliant marketer. And he gave me a lot of exposure there. So that's how the journey began in marketing. And after that, apparently, Facebook was coming up with pages for the first time. And, the digital bug had bit me. And I said, that is something I definitely want to do. And I started working. I started reading a little bit. And there was a common friend who had somebody who had an agency which was into events, films, and design. They're not into digital, but he had a client who was asking him if somebody can do digital and social media specifically for him. And that's the time, I went and met him and I said, you know what, I have read 60% of it and executed 40% of it. Will it be okay? And he said, yeah, hop on. He had a team of around 150 people at that point of time. And
wow.
I, along in partnership with him, started a company which was one of the first social media digital marketing agencies at that point of time. And we grew from there and we worked with a lot of clients. After around 1.5 years, I realized that the visions weren't really matching. And at that point of time, my wife basically told me, she pushed me to take this call. She made me realize that, why don't you start your own company? And, she was basically a GM of 3 companies at that point of time. She was handling, she was the business mind. And I said, why don't you also join up and let's start the company together? And She wasn't my wife, by the way, that point of time. We were just about to get married in a couple of months.
Wow.
Practically, we were unemployed while we got married.
Wow.
And but one thing in financial planning, which I had learned was that one of the major reasons, Walter, why people do not make a move to entrepreneurship or whatever they want to do in life. One of the key things that we've understood in financial planning is planning or preparing for an emergency fund.
Yep.
So let's say if somebody has an emergency fund, liquidity amount for wants, not necessarily needs, only for wants, for around 8 months to a year, that person can do anything he or she wants.
Absolutely.
So I had prioritized at that point of time and gathered that fund for around 8 months. And we took this journey for Oktobuzz together, I and my wife, my boss. And we said, let's begin this journey together. And we started from a bedroom. People start from the garage. We didn't have a garage, so we started from a bedroom, and bed was huge. We apparently put plywood on top of it, and got 3 to 4 people sit inside the room at that point of time.
Wow.
And that's how the journey for Oktobuzz began.
Wow, that's incredible. So that scary time, I guess every entrepreneur goes through that first scary time when, okay, it's just us. Now we need to go out and get some clients, and we need to, start to actually get a name out there in the industry. How did you and your wife start those first few months with Oktobuzz? How did you get it all going?
So one thing which we've been very clear of internally is that for us, the quality matters a lot,
Right.
means a lot. Till today, 80% of my business comes from word of mouth.
Great.
And basically, we did a small survey recently, and we just completed 7 years this April year. And we basically figured out that 92.8% clients have been with us for more than 3 years.
Wow.
And that's been something which we focus on consciously. Retention and client happiness is a very important thing for us. We go beyond lengths for that. At the same point of time, so that's what we said. We get our first client, might be as small as it or as big as it is, and we'll start from there. Apparently, we were talking to some of our contacts whom we knew, because that's how you begin. You start from your first circle of influence.
Right. And people that the contacts on your phone, people you've worked with in the past, those were the first people you reached out to?
Right. But we had this value, and I had told my previous company or owner, partner, that whatever happens, I'm not going to go to any of your clients or any of your, team members and post that, because that was the company that I had set up. Yeah. And that was my baby too. So we started looking for very fresh clients. So if clients reached out to us, then it was a different thing. There was this client called Ashwin Sanghi. He is one of India's top authors. He's one of the top 5 authors in India. In fact, he's been on New York Times bestseller list a couple of times. He and James Patterson collaborate and write books together. So he was the one who trusted us first. And he's a client from the last 7 years.
Wow.
And after that,
so you've helped him get onto the bestseller list.
His writing has done the job, but definitely we have been with him throughout. Yes.
Fantastic.
We do his complete social website, performance marketing completely.
So actually, that brings me to a good point, and I'll come back to the story because I want to dig into that a little bit more. A lot of people that we speak to, they always describe their agency as a 360-degree agency. What does that mean to you? What's your definition behind that?
I think, Walter, that's a very good question. Apparently, we started telling people that we are a 360-degree agency, and I think we made a mistake out there. Apparently, we have hardly a handful of people. Till today, we do not say we are a 360-degree agency. We say we are a digital agency, and we provide these services, because 360 has so many things in it.
Of course.
So many. We value transparency and bold honesty is one of the most core values to us. And we honestly tell our clients these are the services that we outsource, and these are the services that are in-house that we do. And they, in fact, give us a plus point besides the negative out there. And we started by saying that we were a 360-degree agency. And we used to outsource work to people whom we didn't know. And we fell flat on our face at that point of time. And that was a learning that we got, that, that's something that we shouldn't definitely do.
Yeah. Cool. So now you have
focusing on
your
strength.
core specialties, and then you're outsourcing the additional tasks that you need to do from there. That sounds very smart. So let's go back to your first client was or one of the first clients was the very famous author that you've helped there. You're reaching out to your contacts. How long did it take in terms of time for you and your wife to feel like, yes, we've made it, we're doing well?
Not yet.
Not okay. You've got Amazon India listed on your books. You've got Forbes listed on your books, and you're not ready yet. Okay.
There is so much that we want to do yet. I mean,
okay.
We are a company which believes in culture first, and we are. I mean, being a very small agency till now. I mean, we have been a part of documentary series on company cultures by CNA News Asia, and they have won gold for that. Apparently, culture is one of the most important things for us. We follow this gentleman called Tony Shea from Zappos. A big fan of him, and have got training under his chief culture officer already. We've attended their seminars in India and been in touch with them to understand and work on a company culture. There is so much that we want to do there. There's so much that we haven't cracked. I mean, we could have been bigger agency right now already. We could have had 100 people, 130 people. We are going slow and sustainable at this point of time. I mean,
okay.
The idea is that if you basically start something, don't look back, and at the same point of time, sustainability is more important than speed for us. So, for example, there is pandemic going out. I mean, every agency is going through a mixed bag, going through an up and down during this situation. We are happy to say that we haven't laid off any person, or we haven't cut anybody's salary, or we haven't delayed anybody's salary at this point of time, because of the stability, because of the sustainability in terms of our work and how we are going ahead. And in fact, I mean, we are focused on our culture at that point of time.
Wow. So how does the sustainability? So that word, you've used it a few times in the last sentences.
Yep.
There. What specifically about the way that you run Oktobuzz echoes that sustainability? Like, what do you do specifically that makes that a core objective of what you're doing?
So when it comes to sustainability, I mean, see, there are many agencies whom we have seen who have started possibly before us or with us or after us, and they've in terms of revenue or in terms of let's say the number of people, they have gone up. And if you see the longevity, I mean, after that time, let's say I've seen a person, an agency coming from around 130 people to 20 people now again.
Right.
I mean, we definitely don't want to go there. I mean, we want to go slow. We want to go sustainable. And like you said, the definition of sustainability, I mean, is different for different people. But for us, it would be out here where finances, are a key point out here. Culture is a key point out here. Mm-hmm. Processes and systems. There is chaos. I mean, let me admit to it. There is chaos. It's an agency. We are all going bonkers sometimes.
I'm happy to hear that, by the way, because that makes a lot of people feel better.
Yeah, there is chaos. I mean, you have to have creative chaos. Otherwise, the juices won't flow sometimes.
Sure.
But, making those mistakes early and getting the processes set up, getting the foundation strong, and then basically scaling it up becomes much more easier. I mean, we do it for our clients who are into performance marketing also. So the first 3 months, the first cycle is when we try to crack a formula for them that this is the A cost. We don't only leave till the traffic comes, but go to the last mile in terms of understanding, okay, what is the A cost or average cost of sale? Once we have cracked that and run a few cycles for them, now we know, let's put gasoline on it.
So digging into that, so talking about the ACOS, the average cost of acquisition for a customer, when you're building that campaign for a customer, you're working that slowly before you ramp up the ad budget. So in other words,
exactly.
We could throw $10,000 at this campaign hoping that it's going to work, or we can start with $100, get some sales in the door, prove out average cost of acquisition, make sure that it's sustainable. There's that word again. And then add the $10,000 knowing that we're going to end up with results. Right. So, and how does that work in terms of staffing levels for you? So you're bringing in new clients, and obviously you've got a great retention of your current clients, which is terrific. How does that sustainability affect your growth? You're not bringing on too many people too quickly, or you're making sure that you've got, that next job before you've got the next staff member. How does that work for you internally?
So, the client comes first or the employee is always a question.
Yeah.
It's a catch-22 situation out there, and it's a question for everybody. But we have learned something out here that, we started hiring interns first, and, a lot of junior executives, because when we started in the beginning, we didn't have too much money, and we completely bootstrapped till now. So the whole idea was that, while we got them, we had to put in much more time at that point of time.
Right.
And slowly we learned, 4 interns versus 1 person who was experienced, same salary for 4, same work, kind of, why not hire experienced people?
Yeah.
Right now, we kind of, when it's on the design flow, when it's on the creative flow, we don't have 1 intern out in a company. From a learning point of view, it's a different story, but from an execution point of view, you don't have anybody as an intern. That basically helps us to put the best of the minds to the clients. Now, in terms of how do we sustain a cash flow, if we are kind of telling a client that just put $100, it's in the longevity of it. I mean, we definitely, if the first 2 or 3 months we work hard, and it's always an investment from our side to the client, but
sure,
that's the reason why the clients are sticking by. They know that we are not jumping and wasting the money. I mean, recently we were kind of closing a client, and kind of they told us that we are happy that you're suggesting us this, because there was an agency whom we worked with. They kind of charged us quite a lot, but then what ended up happening is they were just there for 3 months, and that's possibly their aim was that at least let's get them for the 3 months, and our aim would be to be with them for the longest time,
for 3 years, not even before we have a review. No, I completely understand. Absolutely. So you mentioned before, and you said it as a joke, but you mentioned before that your wife is the boss, right? So as we look at the corporate structure within Oktobuzz, and I noticed that it's got the 2 of you listed there as the co-directors.
Right.
How did that relationship affect the working environment within Oktobuzz? Was there an easy understanding between you both, or did you kind of have to work that out as you went along?
So we dated for 7 years.
Okay.
Before we got married.
Okay.
And we had to make sure that we had the same level when it comes to our wavelength. And we are very clear. One of the key values again in our relationship is over communication. She knows what's happening in my day. I know what's happening in my day. Or we're very clear. And we have gone beyond to generate that trust. And that's where insecurities don't come, I believe. And with that kind of, problems between both of us are less to happen when it comes to an organization. But at the same point of time, we made one mistake while we started. We were doing everything together. That doesn't really work.
Right.
You have to divide the responsibilities well.
Yeah.
And you do yours. I trust you with that. I do mine. You trust me with that. And I think that equation has really worked well.
Do you have, is there a definite boss between you at work? Let's not talk about home, because that's a different situation. Sure. But is there someone, is there one of the 2 of you in the office that is the end decision maker?
It's about whoever has whatever responsibility, that person is the end decision maker for that.
For that project, okay.
That then. Yeah.
Understood.
So, for example, she handles the finance side and the human resource side, and she handles the performance side. I basically look at the business side, business development side, and the creative side. So, this side, creative side, business development side, my call is final. On the other side, human resource side, finance side, her call is final.
Fantastic.
So it's easy then.
Works well. So now we're starting to get some momentum. You're bringing in those interns, as you said, and then realizing that cost effectiveness, you're better off with that more experienced kind of staffing person moving forward. how do you mentioned that most of your staff are handpicked, and I think we said that before we actually clicked on
Yeah,
record.
yeah.
So most of your staff is 31 strong now with Oktobuzz, and the staff are handpicked. How do you go about finding the right people for the roles at the right time?
So I'll be honest, we're still kind of working on a couple of things that we want to reach.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll break it down for you. It's very interesting. Apparently, we are currently working on finalizing our value systems.
Mm-hmm.
And these values are not just to write and put it down under a desk or put it somewhere else. But though every value will basically have a set of behaviors below them.
Okay.
And at the same point of time, all these values basically will have there will be questions in interviews related to those values.
Right.
And at the same point in time, these values will also lead to performance appraisal. So we know that they're following this. What ended up happening is that while we recruit people, the first gen or the first line in command who's working with me, the first team who's working directly with me, they would basically copy or they would automatically get into that value system. But not necessarily it happens down the line always.
Right, sure.
And that's why while you grow, it's important to have values, behaviors aligned, and at the same point of time, make sure that your performance and your recruitment reflects the same. At the same point of time, in terms of recruitment, we look at two things very importantly. One is your competency, which is very important. And at the other hand, we look at the character of a person.
Sure.
And sometimes we have found people who are brilliant in terms of competency, but not in terms of character.
Mm.
And that is something that doesn't work out. We are absolutely not a hire and fire company at all. But the only two times when people get fired in a company is when there is a lot of politics or when they're spreading too much negativity, or basically when the performance is completely not up to the mark. And I mean, we see right now we're small. While we scale up much more, we'll find out whether we can control politics or how. But we're aiming to that. I mean, I just give an example. For example, I don't know if you know this company called Reliance. It's one of the biggest companies in India, and Mukesh Ambani is the owner of the company. I mean, he himself is a very aggressive person, and that shows in his company.
Right.
Whereas Mr. Ratan Tata of Tata's is a very sustainable, nice, slow-going but
Softer.
properly going person. That shows in his company.
I see.
Similarly, politics and values are always most of the time top down. If you bring some certain kind of culture, it is gonna happen in your company.
Mm.
And we make sure that we are equally responsible or accountable if we are making somebody else accountable in the company. Easily said than done,
Yeah.
but we really try our level best at that.
How did you learn this, Hemal? You mentioned you've gone through that MBA from a marketing perspective. How did you learn about culture and values and recruitment and team growth, and where did that knowledge come from?
I'll be very honest. I did my MBA because I really love brands, understanding stuff about them. And I have been a salesperson in my mind. If you ask me something about sales, I have a few formulas which I can definitely share with you later. But at the same point of time, human resource is something that I'm very passionate towards. I mean, I basically have gone ahead and I am a certified counselor, by the way. And because that was again something that liberated me more than anything else. And
Tell me about that.
In my first company, Freedom Financial Planners, what ended up happening was that the company's HR had left and they needed someone at that point of time. I automatically filled in the shoe without they asking for it. I started taking initiatives and in no time, I did not mention this, but in 1.5 years, I was head of HR and head of marketing both. And then
Wow.
Freedom Financial Planners from a 4-people team when I joined was around 175 people at that point of time. So that's been the journey. And from there, there was this TED conference which had happened in India where I, heard Tony Hsieh from Zappos, and he's completely responsible for making me fall in love with company culture.
Right. Interesting. So you mentioned earlier in the conversation, you used the word mentor. Uh, is that
Yeah.
something that you have in as a formal process? Do you have someone that you meet with on a regular basis, talk about the business and grow alongside them? Or is it more of picking heroes in certain niches and kind of doing what they do?
So there is this book I kind of which is called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. I mean,
I have
most
two
of us
copies of
know about
myself.
that. Perfect. So I'm a reader, and one of the things he says is have a mastermind group, like around you,
Mm,
and these mentors are somebody. Some of them are kind of like or some of them are like my friends, but I have learned so much from them
yeah.
that they have been my teachers. I have learned so much from my ex-bosses that they've become my teachers, and I still keep in touch and consult with them. So it's not one person, but it's a group of people
Nice.
that if I'm stuck at any point of time, I'll definitely go to them and speak to them. But there's no formal process like that.
What about business planning and coaching, that kind of stuff? Do you have a business coach or somebody that's helping you chart the path for Oktobuzz, or is that purely your goals and dreams that you're setting out in addition with your wife?
In terms of business goals, it's something I and my wife are doing it together. But at the
Terrific.
same point of time, the reason why I switched from marketing and financial planning to social media in an agency was due to a coach. His name is
Mm,
Gopal Sejpal, and a wonderful coach. He's a Marshall Golds. He's kind of like Marshall Goldsmith coach, and he was completely responsible, kind of when it came to helping me out to get answers to my questions, or rather, one thing about coaches that I love is they never give answers. They ask the right questions, and help us focus and make us accountable to think the answers for them. I think that's the best part about coaching.
nice.
So I think he's pretty much helped us there. Now we have started working with him again. So we are doing a 360 assessment in terms of leadership from everywhere. We've just started that. So it's begun where my family members are involved, my clients are involved, my team members are involved,
Nice.
and kind of my friends are involved.
Very cool. Awesome. Um, you mentioned before that you had that counseling background, and I know that
Yeah.
you've been a passionate public speaker in groups of entrepreneurs and in growth areas within Mumbai, within India. What are some of the subjects that you're passionate about? You could stand up on stage right now and talk to a room full of people about.
Well, you tell me digital media marketing, when it comes to book marketing, when it comes to company cultures, uh, and when it comes to sales, there is a favorite kind of talks that I speak about, which is about law of averages. So these are a few of the things that I can really speak about.
That was the one that it escaped my mind, and thank you so much for bringing it up. The law of averages. I noticed,
Yeah.
I was researching, I saw on your company site, on your LinkedIn profile, in a few different places, you mentioned the law of averages. What is that to you? How does it work from a mentality point of view? How does it help
So,
you keep going with a sales environment? What's the law of averages to you?
okay, let me make it a little interactive out here. Okay, let me ask you a few questions.
Go for it.
How many cards? How many cards are there in a pack of cards?
52.
How many
No,
aces?
sorry. Is that right? 13
Yeah, yeah.
times 4,
Perfect.
52.
Perfect.
Right.
52. Yeah. Right. How many aces?
4.
Okay. Now imagine I'm a salesperson. Imagine you're a salesperson and you're going knocking door to door, and somebody just slams the door in front of you. How will you feel? Will you feel good or bad?
Bad, of course. Devastated.
Right? If you know this law of averages, it will help you. It will actually make you feel good genuinely, not just for the sake of it, but it will actually make you feel good and help you in the sales process overall in life also. So let's get back to cards here. There are four aces. Okay. Now I have put all the cards upside down, like they are folded and they are laid out in front of you, randomly. And if you have to find out your four aces, which is the most fastest and the most effective way to find all your four aces?
What's the
What do you
fastest
think?
way?
What is the fastest and the most effective way to find out your four aces?
Turn them all over.
You cannot do that. Sorry.
Oh,
You have to. My bad. My bad.
Okay. I guess it would be just one at a time. Next one, the next one, the next one, until I got to the aces.
I have asked this question to, I think a room full of people, or more than kind of, I don't know how many hundred people I would have asked this question, but absolute correct answer. Uh, there are only three answers to this. One is probability, right, in which you can, like, go completely wrong or completely delayed. Random picking up of cards, which again, kind of, you might think, oh, let me pick this. That might waste a lot of time. But the best way is to go on picking one by one by one by one by one. Now imagine you're at the doorstep and that person slammed the door on your face. What did that person do for you? That means that that's not your ace.
It's
What is
another card
happening
that
is
you've
you
turned
have
over.
to, exactly, you have to actually thank that person because of two things. One, he saved your time. And second thing, he's bringing you closer towards your ace.
Mm.
So the law of averages basically say this: out of 50 people you meet, two people have to give you the check. That's the law of averages. I mean, the whole idea is that most of the times, kind of like, we're working on one or two pitches with clients, and if they go wrong, we feel so bad and we waste so much of time after that. But fortunately, in my case, when if you know the law of averages, you haven't done your law of averages. How can you expect the client to kind of say yes?
Wow. And I see what you mean about genuinely feeling good about the ones that say no, because it means that you're just ticking that box. You're ready for the next one.
Absolutely.
Love
Yeah.
it. So do you have that mentality in your own sales team within Oktobuzz?
Absolutely. In fact, my recruitment team, which is in-house again, are not only on the other side, but recruitment is as good as sales. There too, kind of is the same thing. That if we have to get somebody recruited, my question is nothing else. My question is first, how many people did you speak to today?
Easy. No other. There are no other metrics to measure. That's the one.
Yeah. How many people did you speak to today? Because that will define kind of. So I'll tell you, when in my college days, I did an internship. That's where I learned this small technique about law of averages, and then I perfected it and read a lot about it later. But whenever I used to go on the field and I used to actually go knocking doors for my college internship, and when I came back, they never asked me kind of or anything else, but the same question that how many people did you meet? Sometimes I used to feel very good when I used to just meet 4 people. And some people are very difficult, nobody could crack it, but you know what, I could crack them. And they would laugh at me. They said, stupid, you could have done much more sales if you wouldn't have spent too much time before kind of closing that one customer. You have 2 sales today, you could have at least got 5 sales today if you would have met 200 people.
And it wasn't about the closing 2 out of 4. Your closing ratio wasn't important. It was about how many people you could meet to actually get them into
Absolutely.
the top of that funnel. Amazing. So
that was the system. That was the process.
Wow. Really cool. And that set up a good foundation for you moving forward, especially into an entrepreneur type role. How I mentioned the sales team before, Hemal. What's your breakup in terms of staffing? Like what percentage are sales? What percentage are digital creative specialists? How's the company broken up at the moment?
So currently, in terms of sales, it's only me and my wife, my partner. Mm-hmm. Besides that, my AMs, my account managers are also into sales. So, they are basically into helping clients grow their business and at the same point of time upselling. And if they find out a new lead through the client, because it's at the right aha moment, kind of when you ask for a reference and, they can get those leads out there. And then there is a team which is into designing. Mm-hmm. I have my art director who's been in the industry since the last 28 years now. Wow. And he leads the team, and he's like the Oogway from Kung Fu Panda, where he's the wise one. So he's one of the most wisest people in a company. And the design team is a mix of illustrators, animators, and people kind of who are specifically into UX UI too. On the other side, we have a creative team which has a bunch of copywriters, social media experts, led by a creative supervisor and a creative director. Okay. And then we have 2 people dedicated into HR. Even being a small company, we have, because culture is important, you need those culture managers out there. Mm-hmm. And human capital team has 2 people. We have a CFO and we have a person who's into accounts and finance. And we have one person who's a multi-dexterous person who's a man Friday, who basically manages our office, runs around for us. And at the same point of time, since pandemic is going on, we're all working from home. He's learning new skills. He's helping us in SEO now.
Nice.
Sorry,
It
I
would
forgot
be
to mention the performance team. Yeah.
nice, very cool. It would be it would be ignorant of me not to talk about the pandemic just for a moment. How has the pandemic affected Oktobuzz? Like, what's been the changes? What have you seen happen within the company in these last 3 months?
So when I messaged you, I said that I'll be very honest and I'll share. The only thing I said before coming here was hope I can help as many agencies as possible.
Yeah.
And some people it might seem like made up, but we really are passionate and believe in it. But at the same point of time, to answer your question, I mean it's a very mixed bag. Are we in red right now? Absolutely yes. But at the same point of time, we're working hard to kind of pitch more. The law of averages has changed here. Besides 50:2, it has become 100:2.
Yeah.
Because that's how the industry is right now. That's the change which is there. But at the same point of time, a lot of clients have been affected. I mean, we have some big retail clients that we work with, and 500, 600 of their stores are closed. One of our clients basically internationally has filed bankruptcy. So all of that is going to happen. But at the same point of time, we onboarded a couple of clients at this point of time. We work with Aditya. We onboarded Northern India at this point of time for the performance marketing, in fact. So there are a couple of good clients that we have onboarded right now too at the same point of time. And we are making sure of three things. We are making sure of, one, being sustainable and secure at this point of time, making sure our team members are safe. In fact, we've already sent a mail to them that till October, even if the lockdown opens up, nobody's coming to office till then at least. Yeah. The reasons were two. One is for their safety, and one is for other safety, because when you go out on the roads, you're crowding the place when you have the luxury to work from home and the others don't. Yeah. And the third part is engagement, where we are making sure that the social isolation part doesn't bite them too much. Yeah. Because that is also key to manage. Kind of people go through depression at this point of time while they are locked inside their homes. One of the things that we've been doing is every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, basically we have a dedicated fitness instructor that comes on Zoom, kind of to work out with
that's great.
Employees and their families. I mean, it's a choice who is able to join or not, but that's
amazing.
Doing, yeah.
Have you had a good turnout? Have you had a good turnout from they come to the fitness sessions?
So we have two kinds of fitness sections. The sessions Monday and Friday we have functional fitness. Wednesday we have yoga. So most of the times, kind of we have in the beginning we had a 25% turnout. Now the percentage is growing. Good part is in that 25% turnout we are having families kind of are being a part of it. And, we know my creative director's father joined in, and that was great. I mean, having everybody inclusive and doing these workouts is fun.
Nice. What would you, if you knew the pandemic was coming? If we can go back to, let's say, October, November, December last year, and we could say to you then that this complete madness and craziness was going to happen, come March this year, what would you do differently to prepare? How would you change your agency and your approach to prepare for what we're going through now?
I've never thought about this, to be honest, but I think what we would just do is make sure we are financially stable. We would ramp up our financial reserves and surplus much more. At the same point of time, we would have planned in advance in terms of specifically some kind of data privacy measures, which took us a lot of time to implement later, or kind of at the same point of time, we would have planned a larger sales team at this point in time, because what you just need right now, like I told you, the law of averages has gone up. Simple thing is we're hiring sales people. We're hiring a few people right now, and change people for sure, because they are very important at this point of time. I would have ramped up the number of my clients, and I would have definitely, from an agency point of view, if you talk about being selfish, I would have really looked at the right kind of industries who wouldn't possibly get affected or who would be pandemic proof, and aimed at them to get clients.
Yeah, it's a good thought. I've talked to a few different agency owners And one of the things that's interesting is those with the industries that are pandemic proof in this example are spending more because they're finding, especially in a digital marketing space, that the cost per click, the advertising cost per acquisition has actually gone down because there's less competition for that click. And there's more people on the platforms, there's more people on social media, there's more people on YouTube, and more people on Facebook. So their actual cost per acquisition has gone down. So a lot of these pandemic-proof, in inverted commas, businesses are seeing amazing results. And of course, it's devastating to understand your client with bankruptcy and closing 600 shops, and that is a complete devastation for any business. And I feel for the owners and the staff and everybody. Right. But at the same time, there are businesses out there that really are seeing growth like they've never seen before.
Yeah, I mean, we have been working with some clients in the healthcare industry and some people in the SaaS industry. Business has gone around from 2x to 4x, and now one of our businesses at 7x. I mean, it's crazy. What we could have done in a month for them, it's minimum double or triple fold.
Wow, that is amazing. That's incredible. So, taking this magic crystal ball that we said if we could understand, the pandemic was coming in October, what do you feel personally is in store for our next, say, 3 to 6 months towards the end of 2020?
I mean, I'll be very honest. I mean, nobody knows when the vaccine is going to come, but
no, sure.
I think till that comes and things stabilize a little more, it's going to be a little uncertain, and we'll have to deal with that uncertainty. Very important, which again, something kind of we learned very late in our entrepreneurship journey. Cash flows, financial analysis, very, very important. I mean, currently we have our P&Ls going up to employee level, category level, and client level P&Ls is what we have. That is really important. It really helps us in taking the business to the next level, setting up a foundation. The second thing is what we need to do right now is definitely work on more pitches, approach more customers. I think these are just the two things which we can do and take care of the teams at this point of time. I mean, they've always been there for you, and you've been there for them also. But at the same point of time, this is the time when there are a few families dependent upon you.
Yeah.
So unless the performance, is a very big issue with someone, we definitely making sure that the team is with us,
that they're okay, and that they're looked after. So I have Hemal, I'm so grateful for your time, by the way, and thank you so much for the chance to do this with you. I have let me say it this way. I have a chess move question for you and a challenge. And it's a question that I've put to a few agency owners and growth specialists. So I want to see what your answers are in this challenge. Here's the scenario. Let's say that the vaccines come through and we've started to see some sort of settling in the world. We're back to the way things were and the way things we know. Let's say now that we took you and your wife together, and we took you from Mumbai, we took you from Oktobuzz, and we put you in a foreign city, and you had to start again, completely start your agency again, completely go through that growth again, but you have your knowledge, all right, but you don't have your contacts. What would be, this is the chess part, right? What would be the first, say 3, 4, 5 things that you would do to get started in that new environment and make that success happen as quickly as possible?
Okay, so I would use social media for ourselves first.
Okay.
I would definitely create some, start creating a good network online out there. Second thing, I would start creating good offline networks. I mean, there are organizations which I really love, like BNI Business Network International. There are very interesting other organizations and associations which are there for entrepreneurship. I would definitely immediately join them, because there, the networking potential is nearly immediate. And the objective at that point of time wouldn't be to just sell or get clients. The objective would be to showcase good work so that you start getting more clients. We would definitely even consider doing a few projects if we are very much interested in them, for no cost, also for pro bono basis, also to make them case studies for us in that market, and then take it to the next level. Because I think work speaks for itself. Whatever you do, how much of you sell, if you look at longevity, your work speaks for itself. That's what we believe in. So I think these are the few steps that we would take.
Okay, so step number one, we're going to network. We're going to create and interact with social networks personally. Online, we're going to network with some of these amazing organizations that are offline. And I acknowledge BNI, and there's BX, and there's other business networking environments. And if you're stuck in a place, you can Google and find the networks closest to you. So that's a starting point. Move number two, we're going to create some great relationships by doing good work for people in those spaces and using that as a case study, as a springboard for the next step. So now we have those things in place. You've got your networks going on. You've got some meetings happening. You've done some good work with some local clients. What's next from there? Give me two more moves. What's your next two moves?
Okay, sure. So the next move is go lean as possible. See, right now, I mean, we are very proud to say that we are a completely liability-free company, completely bootstrapped till now. And one of the reasons is that we've gone lean. Going lean is very important at this point of time, specifically, so that you can kind of wait out that period and be comfortable and not really be stressed about money at that point of time, so that we can wait for the right kind of clients to come on board. Otherwise, then see, everybody is not your client and you're not everybody's agency. So you need to wait out for the right kind of clients at that point of time and keep working on the process, keep working on the law of averages at that point of time. I mean, when it comes to sales, that's my period answer, because I know that has always worked. There's no way it won't work.
Nice. And then it's just a matter of tapping that law of averages. The more people you can speak to, the more sales you're going to have coming through the door. I meant to ask you, Hemal, I wanted to wind back a little bit. And thank you for that, by the way. Your answers, so that your answers are 100% consistent with the other agency owners and CEOs and founders that I've spoken to and asked that same question. Networking, working to create a good foundation, springboarding from that with constant communication and getting the word out there. That's just the next thing. The only one then would be bringing the people in, building your team to be able to. I think of that as almost the final move in that chess game.
Yeah, absolutely. That's absolutely a move. Yeah.
Yeah.
Building that team is very important.
Fantastic. Yeah. So what I was going to dig back into,
I still thought I could go back to my team in India.
Nice. Outsource it back to them. That's a great way to go. I'm conscious of your time. I meant to ask you before, when we were talking about having to learn the skills of being a business leader. One of the things that you mentioned was you used a word which was processes. Do you have almost like a handbook for Oktobuzz? Do you have a set of processes that define every element of action within the company, or is it a little bit more fluid than that?
It is absolutely fluid. Do we aim to get there? But somewhere in between. See, it shouldn't. So one thing that I've learned about processes is processes needs to be enablers, not stoppers.
Nice. So can you explain that a little bit more?
Sure. So basically, sometimes we put these processes which stop people from like you rightly use the word, being fluid or taking calls beyond. So you basically create processes which are necessary on cultural level, on a value level, and then basically you leave it up to people. And what we are trying to achieve, the matrix processes for matrix are very, very important. Again, something that we learned over the period of time, that we are not in the business of getting likes and engagement. It's bullshit. I mean, even when you're only doing social media for people, the objective is how do we grow their business?
Yeah.
And try to understand the objective. Most of the clients, let me be very honest to you and tell you that most of the clients do not know the objective themselves sometimes.
Wow.
For social media, they have some kind of budget they'll give you and they say, do this. But at the same point, when you dig deeper, when you speak to them, you come to know, okay, for some people, it's perception change is their objective. And then you basically identify, okay, how to measure that. The other point, some people, is that I want to grow my business and hence I'm doing social media. At the end, when you ask 3 or 4 questions to anybody, 3 or 4 whys to anybody, you'll get a right answer in terms of objective. And majorly, everybody's answer will go towards growing my business.
Ultimately, no matter what they say, no matter what they actually, how they bring that across, the goal is to get more customers, to grow the business, always.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
In fact, I mean, growing business might be getting more customers for some people. Some people, it might be getting more recall value, more market share, whatever. I mean, everybody has a different goal. But identifying that and then having matrix towards it. I'll give you an example. There was this, I cannot name the brand, but there was a very huge brand, which had a couple of hundred stores. And the CEO basically came to me, and his objective was very interesting, by the way. He came to me and said that, Hemal, you have the whole digital medium to look at. How can I, and they were not even online in terms of, they didn't have an e-commerce presence. They were only offline stores, and very big brand. And he asked me this question, Hemal, I'm getting an X lakh people in X lakh footfall in my stores every day. How can I double that using digital? Now, I'm like, okay, fine. If you had an e-commerce store, it was very easy. And when we dug in deep, we came to know that, okay, if we change the perception of people who are walking by the store and not coming in the store, if we understand who those audience is and try to change the perception, that is the goal. Identifying the goal is very important. Most of the time, I think one of the biggest mistakes that kind of social media marketers or digital marketers get into is that if somebody gives you a brief, you directly start thinking of ideas.
Right.
I think 80% of your ideas can come from a good audit, good data, good analysis. It's just like the iceberg theory that the maximum part of it is below the water.
Yeah.
Under the surface. So I think that is how we go across, and those are the milestones, or that is the kind of process that we said that, okay, fine, this is how the flow should it be, but otherwise we keep it fluid.
Yeah.
Because if you otherwise kind of tighten it up, okay, that you need to do this only and that only, we've done that and we've failed.
Nice. Okay, so you've run into that as being a blocker and not allowing you to actually create what you need to for the client and for that experience. Interesting. You said then that one of the mistakes that digital marketers make consistently is they get a brief and they immediately start, well, let's put up an ad and let's do that and let's do that.
Yeah.
When a client gives you a brief or gives that brief to whoever's handling it within Oktobuzz, what questions do they ask of the client? So the client says, here's my brief. And we own a software company. So I have my programmers all the time. When I give them a brief, they say, whoa, hang on. When you say this, what do you actually mean? So from a digital marketing point of view, how do you handle that with a client? They've given you a brief. They've said, we want to do this. What's your process to find out the real answer with that client?
See, honestly, most of the times we've failed at getting a proper brief from the client, 80% plus.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, I mean, but then we've accepted that that's an industry-wide issue. And, you can't really do much about that. So what we've ended up doing nowadays is that while we have a call with them, we try and speak to them about a couple of things. We try and get some answers. But now what we've started doing is we create the brief document for the client.
Okay.
And then we give it to them for approval. So that gives them more insight. And at the same point in time, that gives them more confidence in us as an agency that, at the brief level, they've worked so much and gotten back to us. So we start, we do a thorough audit, before we work on the brief document, we work on, the client's voice, what the target audience is, and we start filling those things up. After the first call or the second call, we send it to the client, they approve it, and then we go ahead. So I think that's something that has worked for us, because otherwise waiting endlessly for the right brief to come for the client.
Never going to happen. So you're starting that with initiative. I love it. I absolutely love it. Hemal, thank you again for the opportunity to come and to spend 60 minutes with you and find out how you've grown the Oktobuzz family, how you've put that sustainability into place, how you've looked at different opportunities and grown the infrastructure internally. I think it's absolutely fascinating, and I know that our listeners are going to be very, very grateful. If they were to follow you, what's the best way to find out what you're doing, to find out what Oktobuzz is doing? What are the platforms that you are prolific on, and how can they keep in touch with you?
They can pretty much follow us on our website, which is www.oktobuzz.com, and on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, wherever the same handle goes, facebook.com/Oktobuzz or Instagram.com/Oktobuzz.
Fantastic. And we'll make sure that we've got those links
one more
as well.
Interesting thing is that it's Oktobuzz. Otherwise, people ideally start putting OCTO. It's
I saw that. It's like the German Oktoberfest. Okay.
Oktoberfest.
That's it. Okay, Tio.
Absolutely.
BUZZ.com. And we'll
All
make
right.
sure that we've got the links there underneath the show notes as well. Hemal, thank you
Sure.
again so much for the opportunity to come and chat with you to understand the inner workings of Oktobuzz and how you've grown that agency. My hat's off to you, man. I can't wait to hear what's happening, what's coming next. And again, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Walter. I really want to thank you for inviting me on the show. At the same point of time, what I've seen so many people think about this, that like, I want to have a podcast, I want to speak to entrepreneurs. There's a lot of talk around, but very few people end up doing stuff. And I'm really happy that you're doing this and you're adding to all agency owners like us, our knowledge. Thank you so much for taking that initiative, Walter. Thank you so much.
Thanks, my friend. I really appreciate that. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Hemal. He is an absolute legend. You can touch base. I've got the details of Oktobuzz in the show notes. You can hear that he is a true gentleman, a counselor at heart, and the Octo mind behind Oktobuzz. Again, my friend, thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Walter. Thank you.